Hello and welcome to today's video. Thank you for stopping by today. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you checking out my videos, and please, if this is your first time on this channel, please click on the subscribe button. You're highly welcome, and also on the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. So today's tutorial is on how to cut a wrap blouse, and I'll use a crepe fabric. I'll use 2 meters of crepe fabric, and I'll draft out my pattern first on a pattern paper. So like I always do, I've drawn out my vertical lines, my vertical measurements. My shoulder line is the first line, and 9 inches is my chest line. From the shoulder line to the waist line is 16.5. The hip line is 24 inches, and the length of the blouse is 26 inches, and I added extra ½ inch for hemming. Use the 3" 8 inches standard for shoulder slope, and for the back I came down by ½ inch for the shoulder slope, and for the front I came down by 1 inch. And on my chest line I'm also taking half of my shoulder measurement, and I'm taking the same measurement on the chest line and connecting as you see me do. I will impute quarter of my bust measurement on the chest line, and then from the slope for the back I would find the middle of the line I've just drawn, connecting the slope to the chest line. Then I would form the back armhole curve. I will do same for the front armhole. Starting from the slope for the front armhole, I'll find the center, and then from the center I'll come in by 3/4 of an inch and connect and draw the front armhole. On the waist, I will impute quarter of my waist measurement, and then extra 1 inch for that because I'll be taking that on this blouse. And then on the hip, I'll impute quarter of the hip measurement, and then I would connect the points together. For this blouse, I'm working with a bust circumference of 43 inches, a waist circumference of 39 inches, and a hip circumference of 49 inches. So I will also take my side seam allowances for the bust, the waistline, and also the hip line. So I added all the seam allowances I added on the bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. I added 1.5 inches side seam allowance, and I connected them together. So the next thing I will do now will be to take my darts. Like I said, there will be darts on the blouse, so I will take half of my bust span measurement, which is 4.5, and I will impute that on the chest line, the waistline, and on the hip line, and draw a straight line connecting these points. From the chest line I'll come down by 1 inch, and on the waist I took a dart of ½ inch on both sides of the line. Then from the hip line I came up by 2 inches, and I'm connecting to the dart on the waist, and that is the dart for the back waist. Then for the neckline, I will maintain a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 1½ inches for the back neckline. So I would draw out my back, and note that this blouse does not have a zipper allowance because the front will be open and the back will be closed. I will then go ahead and cut out the pattern. I'll cut out the pattern, then I would use the pattern to cut out the back piece for the wrap blouse. So as I'm cutting, I would cut the armhole for the back first. I'll cut out the armhole and also the shoulder slope for the back. The ½ inch I came down by for the back, that is what I'll cut for the shoulder slope, and I'll leave that for the front until I'm done cutting out the fabric for the back. So I forgot to mention that the pattern paper is on fold. So I would fold my fabric for the back into 2, and then I'll place my pattern on it and then trace out what I have. So I have done that. I added ½ inch shoulder allowance and also another ½ inch hemming allowance to the blouse. So now I will go ahead and cut out the part for the front. For the front, I'll go ahead and trim out the front armhole. I'll trim out the front armhole as well as the shoulder slope for the front. Then I will take the dart for the front. For the front, the dart will start 1 inch below the bust point line, and the bust point I'm working with is 11 inches, so the dart will start from 12 inches. So from 12 inches I'll reconnect. I'll use a red marker to show you the difference. I'll reconnect from the 12 inches I came down by to the dart on the waistline, and that will be the dart for the front. The dart will also stop 2 inches before the hip line, just like the back dart. So I opened up the pattern paper. So from the center front you see a crease, there's a crease. So I'm going to extend from that crease, from the center front to the other side. I'm extending the line on the waistline. Then for the neckline for the front, I would place my tape on 1.5 inches, which I've cut out for the neckline for the back, and from there I would measure out 5.5 inches, and that's the neck depth for the front. I'll place my tape from the tip of the neckline. I'll place it at 1.5 and measure 5.5 inches. Then on the waistline, from the center front where there is the crease, I'm measuring, extending the line by 6 inches. From the center front I'm extending 6 inches, and I'm also placing 6 inches on the hem of the blouse. So I have 6 inches extended on the waistline and also on the hem of the blouse. So I'm turning my pattern so you can see this very well. So I will now connect the points. I'll connect from the neckline to the 5.5 inches, and then down to the 6 inches I came out by at the waistline, and then from there I'll connect down to the hem of the blouse. So that's what I'm doing. From the neckline, the same neck width, I'm connecting to the 5.5, and then from that 5.5 point I'm connecting to the point on the waistline where I have 6 inches, and then I'm drawing a straight line from that 6 inches to the 6 inches on the hemline. So I'll draw a straight line down to the hemline. So this 6 inches I came out by at the waistline. It is not constant. You can choose, you can decide how many inches more you want from the center line. So you can go at least 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches, depending how wrapped you want the blouse to be, how inward you want it to go. So you can choose how many inches you want to take. At least you can go at least 5 inches. So I've decided to extend mine by 1 inch more. So I'll be taking, that's a total of 7 inches from the waistline. So I'm taking extra 1 inch to make it 7 inches. So as I've placed 7 inches, I'll also reconnect from the 5.5 inches to that 7 inches, and I'll still bring the 7 inches down to the hemline. So what I have on the waistline is what I have on the hemline. So I've connected this back just like I did before when I measured 6 inches. So I'm cutting out the pattern. So the pattern with the marks, the side with the marks and the darts would be the useful part. So the other part I've discarded it, and I'll use this other part to cut out the front part. So I'll fold the fabric for the front into two, and then place my pattern on top of it before cutting out. Before I cut out, from the edge of the side I extended, I'll come up by 1 inch. I don't want it to be sharp like that, so I want it a bit curved, and then I'm connecting back to the center part, and I'll cut out this part so that it will not be sharp at this other point. Then I'll fold my fabric into two, and then place the pattern and pin it on the fabric, and then go ahead and cut out the front part. I'll also add, as I'm cutting exactly what I have, but I'm adding extra ½ inch on the hem like I did for the back, and then I'll also add ½ inch at the shoulder for joining, because I also added shoulder joining allowance on the back part. So I'll go ahead and cut out. So I have cut out the front part, and this is what I have. So what I'll do now, I'll place it, I'll show you how I'm going to join this. So I will place the back part and then place the front, the right sides facing each other. So I'll cut out facing for both the front neckline and the back neckline. You can also decide to use bias to tidy up the neckline, but I'll be cutting a facing to tidy up the neckline. After tidying the neckline, what I will do next will be to join the front and the back by the shoulder by ½ inch seam allowance. Then I'll also sew in the join them by the sides using the side seam allowance. For the sleeve, I've drawn out the start line, and from there I'm measuring 4.25 inches as my cap's height. And then on the cap's height line, I will place half of my armhole circumference, which is 9 inches, and I'll add 1.5 inches seam allowance. And then I'm taking a length of 16 inches for the length of the sleeve, and I'll add extra 1.5 inches hemming because I'll be adding an elastic band to the hem. So I'm connecting and drawing out my sleeve like you see me do. And then for the sleeve opening circumference, for half of that I'm taking 12 inches with the side seam allowance inclusive. That is because I'll be adding elastic band to that part, to the hem part. So I'll go ahead and cut out the sleeve. And after cutting out this sleeve, I would then fold another fabric and then place this sleeve on it to cut out the second sleeve. So I'm folding my fabric again, and I'll use that to cut out the second sleeve. So guys, I will be dropping a link on a detailed tutorial on how to cut out a basic long sleeve and as well as a basic short sleeve in the description box. In case you do not know how to do this, I explained very well, so I'll be dropping a link in the description box on how to cut basic long sleeve and a basic short sleeve. So I have sewn in the darts for both the front and the back pieces, and I've also used my facing to turn the neckline for both the front and the back. So what I will do now will be to join them by the shoulder. So I would place the back as you see me do, right side up, so, and the facing, that's the facing. So I'll now join them by the shoulder. I'll pick one part of the front and holding the facing together, the back facing, so I'll join them by the shoulder, and then I'll make sure they start from the same point. I'll turn the facing of the back to the front and sew them as I just demonstrate using the ½ inch seam allowance I left for it. I'll also pick the other side and join together as well, and then use the other facing to cover the seam and then sew together. After that, I will join them by the side using the 1.5 inches side seam allowance I left for it. I've also cut out the belt parts that I'll be attaching to the blouse. The longer belt is about 52 inches of length and the shorter one is about 32 inches, and the width on fold is 2 inches, and I've ironed lightweight interfacing to both of them. The belts, I will sew them using ½ inch seam allowance along the length of the belt. So for the blouse, I have joined them together by the sides. Then on the right side, I did not sew completely. At the waist side, I left 2 inches unsewn where the belt, the longer belt, will pass through, because the belt will pass through and go through the back and then be tied in front. So I left about 2 inches unsewn by the waist. So I will then attach the longer belt. I will attach the longer belt to the left side and then the shorter belt to the right side. That is how I attach them on the waist, by the waist from the wrap side. Then I'll also hem the lower part of the blouse. So after hemming, I would also, like I said before, I will attach the belt. So the belt, after sewing it with that ½ inches, you turn it out to the right side before attaching it, the longer one to the left side and the shorter one to the right side. So I have attached my belt, and I've also attached my sleeve. Like I said before, I added elastic band to the hem of the sleeve, and this is what the blouse looks like. So I'll be patting the longer one through the opening on the right side. That's why it is attached to the left side, and then I'll pass it to the back, and that's how it will be worn. Then you bring it to the front and tie it with the shorter one. So thank you for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and also click on the notification bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. Until my next video, bye.